Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Challenge Chats. Challenge Chats episode 5. Woohoo! So we're back for another interview. We have a very long interview, so I'm going to try to make this intro and outro very quick. So for the intro, I just want to say thank you to all of our business partners and all the amazing people that came to the Crystal Owl Guild 2023 this year. We had lots of great sponsors. We had an amazing lineup of students, including our Student of the Year, Elijah, and our Commitment to Community Service winner, Maddie. So a huge thank you to everybody who came out to that event, watched the live stream, and watched the live stream VOD on both Facebook and Instagram. Also, we're going to spring assemblies this month. We already have kicked those off. We can't wait to see you all. I hope you enjoyed the interview today. Our interviewee today is Dennis Zatlin. He is the president of Allied Resources Group. He's super amazing. He did an amazing job with me and Mel during the interview. I'll also be able to hear Mel in that interview, as I said, because me and Mel doubled up on the interview this time. Mel could not do this intro and outro with me, though, this time, because we are very, very busy at TCP and we have a lot going on. So now I'm going to send it over to Bryce and Mel over at the interview. Okay, thank you for that from the studio, and now we're back, and today I'm interviewing with Mel is with me today. Mel, are you excited to do an interview?
Yeah, I'm really excited.
And of course, we're here today with Dennis Zatlin. He is from Allied Resource Group. He is the president. So it's nice to meet you. Say hi, Dennis.
Hello.
So
Nice to be here.
So we're here doing a little interview with Dennis, doing our normal, challenging interview, so it'll be fun. So first, we always start off with an easy one. So Dennis, just tell us who you are, tell us how you got into Allied Resource Group, and then tell us anything else that you just want to...
Sure. So thank you for the introduction and being here today. So I am originally from Pittsburgh. I live in Philadelphia now. Started my career here. Actually, my education as well. Went to Robert Morris University.
Mm-hmm.
Got a degree in accounting. Practiced for about 5 years in the accounting side of things. And then realized rather quickly that I wanted to do something more than just accounting. And I always had the entrepreneurial spirit, so I was really looking for an opportunity where I could do not just one thing, but a few things, so I could really figure out the path I wanted to take. And so I actually began to work for an engineering consulting firm here in Pittsburgh and really just found my way through it. Started in accounting and then got into an operational role and moved my way through that. There was an opportunity to move to Philadelphia, to open an office and really get more involved in a sales role, which was very new and very different for me and quite frankly, a little scary. It took some time. I was able to get acclimated, found success after about 2 years in Philadelphia. After a number of years out there in Philadelphia working for this Pittsburgh-based company, I thought it was time for me to go on my own and start Allied. And I started it through an acquisition. 2003, I made an acquisition and just started building from there. And what I realized is the business itself wasn't what excited me. It was the idea of starting that and how we could build from that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've been doing the last 20 years is made several acquisitions, kind of building the Allied Resources Group, which is really a holding company for 7 companies that we operate.
Oh, okay.
Very cool, yeah.
So obviously you've done a lot and you've done amazing work going into finding your own company, working at these other companies and doing amazing work, acquiring tons of companies. Through all of that, what has been something that has been extremely challenging for you? Have you had any challenges that were...
Listen, I don't think you find success without many challenges. In fact, I think, and it's a whole path you can go down, and I think where the challenge program is going to be a big help for a lot of kids. Mm-hmm. It's really not how to get rid of challenges, but how to face challenges.
Sure.
And I had plenty. So I grew up one of 5. We didn't have much.
Right.
My dad worked in the mill. My mother was a bank teller. And 5 children at that time was, that was a lot. Mm-hmm. And again, where we lived, we were probably the people who had the least. And so my father then passed suddenly at the age of 51, and I think I was 24 at the time.
So very difficult.
Yeah, it was very difficult. And I think trying to find even at that point, I was still trying to figure out who I was, what I wanted to be, where I wanted to go with my life and my career.
Yeah.
And so I've had many challenges. I think the one that sticks out for me is one that I've learned from the most, and that is when we moved from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia. Everybody said to me when we went to Philly, they said, "You're from Pittsburgh? Oh, you'll never last here."
Mm-hmm.
Everybody from Pittsburgh who moves out here inevitably moves back to Pittsburgh, and I said,
okay.
"Well, not me.
Yeah.
I'm not going back."
Yeah.
And so I was it was more of a pride thing. I wanted to show them that I could succeed
Yeah.
outside of Pittsburgh. But I have to tell you that it was 2 years, and I remember it well, where I questioned myself almost every day. Is this what I want to do?
Yeah.
Is this what my life is going to be?
Yeah.
I didn't initially enjoy it because the path to success was not immediate. So it was a long road that you had to experience. And quite frankly, I was very down, anxious about whether I was going to make it or not, and really on myself. Like, is this the right move? We had sold our house here in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
My wife got a job rather quickly. She's an engineer. She was able to get a job.
Oh, that's good.
But I still was unsure whether this was I made the right decision or not.
Yeah.
And so it took me about 2 years. And then when I got to the other side and started finding some success, I realized that period of anxiety and stress and really, being depressed about the decision I made, gave me the confidence to realize that if I got through that, I can make it and do other things that I never thought I was going to be capable of doing. And so I tell that story a lot because I think it's a good lesson that you don't know. At the time, you think it's like an awful period, but it's teaching you at the same time.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize it. You don't even realize that is teaching you how to push forward and get to the other side.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with me. And I think I don't know if I would have been able to start my own business had I not had that experience of literally picking up, moving a city.
Yeah.
No, we didn't have any friends. We had no relatives. We had, new doctors, new dentists. I mean, everything was new. Getting lost in the neighborhood, right? Because you don't know where the roads.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really big emotional moment for me, especially, and my wife. And I think getting through that other side was a great success and a great lesson that has helped me immensely throughout my life.
That is so interesting. Rebuilding your life helped you to build a company, which is
I listen. I reflect on it. I think about what were the pivotal points in your life, and I think what happens with a lot of people is it's easy to get comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
So could I have found a job in Pittsburgh here? Sure, I'm sure I could have,
yeah.
right?
It probably would have paid you well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I could have. But the opportunity for something bigger and better, and quite frankly, I thought this was an opportunity that I wouldn't have been able to get in Pittsburgh. It was a really nice, big opportunity.
Yeah.
So I took it, but I took it with a lot of apprehension, but not telling everybody I had a lot of apprehension.
Yeah.
So again, getting through that other side, and that's what I try and share with a lot of people is what may be the darkest time for you may be something that if you've learned how to manage through that, and you'll get through it, stick to it. And even if you get to the end and you realize this wasn't my best decision, you've learned something from that. And you'll learn what to do and not to do in the future. So, it was big for me, and hopefully that story will lend itself to help others in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it ties in perfectly with the challenge program right now too, because we just started using that "Why not me" slogan in the schools, and so like you said, they told you, look, nobody makes it out here. They always, end up going back. But you kind of looked at them and you said, "Why not me? Why can't it be me who's the one person who makes it?"
Listen, I have to be honest. My wife got me a sign. It's in one of our rooms in our room, and it's a 1 in a million. The song 1 in a million, and 1 in a million. I am 1 in a million.
Yeah.
Because I took a lot of risk, probably disproportionate risk, and I was able to succeed. But from where I came from, I went to Wilkinsburg High School, so. And this was I graduated in 1981. I think it's closed now.
Oh.
But even the education then wasn't the best,
Sure.
right? So what I realized when I came out of high school is I really had to re-educate myself before going to college.
Yeah.
And so, that whole experience of did I expect to be where I'm at today?
Mm-hmm.
Not in a million years.
Yeah.
Not in a million years.
Yeah.
And that is again, I think, a testament and hopefully inspiring for others to look at it and say, why not me?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely is.
Why not
Yeah.
me?
And one thing I even took note of, as you said, it was like a 2-year exploration until you finally got to a place where you felt like you made the right choice. And so I think it's important to know that, like, I think that most people would consider you extremely successful. And so I feel like sometimes people who are extremely successful, everybody just thinks that they just make the right decisions and just know that the right decisions right there and then, and they never have any doubts. And so it's good to hear somebody who's so successful be like, yeah, for 2 years, I wasn't really sure if this was the right choice or not, you know.
And absolutely. And then when I started making the acquisitions, again, I had limited experience making acquisitions, and I made one that I thought, oh, I'm a genius. I figured this. It really did really well, and I was like, oh, I'm a genius. And I ran out and I
You're
bought
like, I
another
did
one.
it. Yeah.
Still won. And then I quickly realized I wasn't the genius that I thought I was. So you learn through the process that, again, it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect.
Right.
But it's how you process that allows you to learn from it and grow from it and succeed from it.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, where I've been able to do that maybe
Yeah.
better than if you look at it and say, well, what has been the things? It's not one thing; it's a combination of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is always the hardest question that we ask people that we interview. So we always say, through all of your success and everything you've been through, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to your younger high school self, knowing some of the challenges that you went through right for the first few years there outside of high school? What piece of advice do you think might have helped him right out of high school?
Wow, that's a really good.
I know it
question,
digs
right?
so deep because you don't want to be too
here's
existential.
why I hesitate with that somewhat. Your world or your life is vastly different as you grow and mature.
Yes.
Right. And so the things that you think are important in today and in high school, in your mind, they are important, and they are life changing or life altering, or they mean a lot. They so I don't want to minimize, the way I was, the way I felt, and what I thought was important in high school, because at that time, those things were important to me.
Yeah.
In hindsight, what would I have done a little differently? I was always focused on making money, even when I was young.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have slowed down a little bit and enjoyed my, getting more involved in extracurricular activities in school, and maybe been a little more focused on my studies. It took me a while to when I got into college of learning how to study.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I was an average student, but I was happy with average.
Yeah.
Right. And today I wouldn't be. Right. So today I wouldn't be happy with average. And so I think some of those habits that I had formed early on.
Yeah.
When you're younger, you think there's this thing that you can do that's going to catapult you past everybody else and not have to do the hard work.
Yeah.
And that's just not true. What ends up inevitably happening is you're just delaying the hard work you're going to have to put in at some point.
Oh, yeah.
So I think if to your question there, if I had if I'm honest, I think I would look and realize that there are no shortcuts.
Yeah.
Don't try and find the shortcut. You're going to waste a lot of energy trying to find shortcuts.
Yeah.
Find the real path. Find a path that is clear and proven, and go there, and you'll be happier because you won't have to spend a lot of time and energy to try and get to a place that if you just follow the roadmap, you get there. I say this to my son all the time. I always say to him, the door's right there. And he's like, Dad, I have it. I got it. I'm going to go this way. I said, the door's right there. And he's like, Dad, I have it. And I'm going to, and I say, okay. So, but sometimes people have to experience it themselves and learn from that experience before they'll actually take advice.
It's so funny that you say that because our founder, Dan Perkins, in part of his story video, he always says you can either pick the easy way or the right way. And he said that he's always picked the right way. And so it's so funny that you say that because he feels the exact same way about how you have to navigate through life, always picking the right direction, not always just the easiest or the shortcut.
Yeah, and the advice he gives is very, very sound advice. But when you're younger, And listen, to be honest, I know a lot of adults that way. I mean, how many adults do we all know
Yeah.
that say, "Oh no, I found the thing. It's right,
Right,
here,"
yeah.
and I say, okay, but I get involved in some other businesses for guiding them on startup businesses, and I'd be amazed. And some of these people are very bright. They're engineers or people who are very inventive, and when I talk to them, sometimes what they lack is the business acumen to understand how to bring that product to market. And they too sometimes are too hopeful instead of being realistic. And sometimes the path is right there, but we want to find a different path.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think if putting your head down and doing the hard work is the best way to go.
Oh, yeah. So this is always a very important thing for high school students. So we have our group of student influencers, and we talk to them about like things that they find interesting or ways that they are interested in hearing, things that they're interested in hearing from businesses. But one of the things that is talked about a lot is work-life balance nowadays for like younger students, because it's a huge thing. For a while their work-life balance was getting very muddy, especially through COVID and everything. Sometimes working from home didn't always help work-life balance and stuff like that. So we just wanted to ask, being the president of a company, it's probably very important that you like make sure that your office culture is always very healthy and well-rounded. So like what are your thoughts on like a nice work-life balance, and what do you encourage for like your employees?
Well, listen, it's a really active discussion that we're having almost every day. In fact, I was at the Sixer game last night with some folks, and we were talking about that. We were talking about the challenges in the workforce and how do you motivate. What is motivating to some is not motivating to others. So always trying to find that mix. So for instance, it's very clear to us, and or at least in my businesses, that you're right. People want that. I think right now flexibility in the workforce is really what people are looking for. Whether it's work from home Monday, Fridays, come to the office a couple of days a week, or some other flexibility that's built in there where they can pick the days they come into the office. And of course, a lot of companies are choosing to go complete remote. I'm not a big fan of that. I think the reason for that I'm not a big fan is because I believe, particularly the younger folks, there's some things you can't teach. They have to see it. They have to experience it. They have to talk to their colleagues and share ideas. And I think you just simply can't do that via Teams or Zoom. So to your point on the other work-life balance, I'll admit to you, I was the worst at it.
That's
on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the best, I was a 1.
Yeah, and sometimes you are your worst enemy with that too, because sometimes it's not even the company's fault. Sometimes you maybe just take on a little bit more work than you should.
I was probably borderline a workaholic.
Yes.
I didn't have a good work-life balance. However, here I am, pretty far into my career. And I can reflect now that was a mistake.
Sure, yeah.
It was a mistake. It was a mistake because I think I still could have done a lot of and found some of the success I had without sacrificing things for the sake of just sacrificing.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes people think being a martyr is, you just have to work 12 or 15 hours a day.
Yeah.
The question is, are you being productive? And here's the thing about today. When COVID hit, we also had to regroup. I mean, my businesses are human capital. We don't have machines. We don't have, it's all people-based companies. Consulting services, staffing services, project management services. So we had to react to the moment. And what I learned a lot from that. I learned that one is that we could be more flexible in our work-life balance. And so we have made a lot of changes in that regard in terms of giving people that Monday, Friday from home or working different hours in the office that they like, but then also doing the after work activities. We do a lot of after work activities.
Oh, that's awesome.
In fact, I'm probably more known for giving the best parties, throwing the best parties than I am anything else in the company. I think I'm the chairman of the board when it comes to the parties in the company. So we do a lot of that. And the reason why I've done it is because I have really 7 separate companies. And the 7 companies trying to bring everybody together to do that is, to me, a lot of fun. And it creates that, that people can connect.
Yeah.
And so again, work-life balance, I think, is continuing to evolve. I think it will continue to evolve. but we're very tuned into it. Now, I'm tuned into things that we do surveys often about.
Oh, okay.
What is that makes you tick? Is it the benefit side? Is medical benefits, or is it pay time off, or is it pet insurance, or what is it that again? And then we try and see where most people are, and then move the company in that direction.
Cool. Yeah, and that's kind of like meeting in the middle of like figuring out what makes everybody happy, and then kind of maybe meeting in the middle where okay, you can't work from home all the time, but we can give you like Monday, Friday, you can work from home.
Yeah, and what I always say to people right now is the history of the company tells you a lot about who the company is. If they're looking at how things are evolving and then they're evolving, that's a good company.
Yeah.
If you look at companies and they say, well, this is our way, we're not changing. Well, you're going to know that is a company that is kind of not really good with change.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
We're different. We embrace change. You have to adapt. If you don't adapt, you're going to lose employees, which is the greatest. That's our only asset in the company, right? Our biggest asset are our people. So we have to change. Sometimes I'm a little hesitant myself, but I've realized in some of the things we've embraced have worked out really well.
Yeah, and change is scary for everybody.
It really is.
Because you never know if it's going to work out.
Absolutely is.
So.
It really is.
And it's always good to have a healthy mix because you don't want to embrace change so easily that you always just are like, you never have any resilience or any questioning of change. It's always good to have a healthy amount of questionability about new change.
I do think, though, that this is a period, I think, we'll look back on and say there was a lot of change going on in the workplace right now, family, workplace, that I think will, probably set it for years to come.
Yeah.
This period of time, probably, again, pushed by COVID, initiated by COVID, but I think it will have impacts for many years to come.
Yes.
So this is our last heavy hitting question because it's always nice to ask. So obviously our podcast is a lot for students. Obviously the challenge program is concentrated on high school students. So this question I feel like is very important for them because it's always good to know. So you're the president of a company. I'm sure that you've hired a lot of people and you've probably been through that process a lot. So we always like to ask, what are some attributes and things that you've really liked about some people that you've hired and things that you feel have been an asset to them being hired? What do you think?
Well, I know
it's always a hard
question. No, it's not. It's actually not a hard question. It really isn't.
Okay,
no.
Okay.
And some of it's really simple, really, really simple things. First of all, if you get an interview, make sure you send a thank you.
Oh, okay.
All right? You'd be amazed at how many people do not send a thank you.
Right.
And it can be a handwritten thank you, but an email thank you will suffice. Right?
Okay.
It's the first thing. The second thing is demonstrate how much you want the job. Tell them that you want the job. Don't be afraid to say, this is a really good fit for me. I think I could do a great job for you, and here's why.
Yeah.
Right? Some people feel like it's the interviewer they're just going to answer questions, and they're not going to engage.
Yeah.
The more the student or the interviewee is answering questions and shows their initiative and interest, it stands out.
Yeah.
Always stands out. Don't be afraid to follow up.
Okay.
Follow up with a phone call if you're. People think, I don't want to pester them. If they're really interested, they will call. I can't tell how many times we'll get down to a list and we'll say, well, who has showed the most interest in the job?
Yeah.
Right? And we make decisions based on that interest. Where especially when you've got some people who are equally qualified on paper, but then it comes down to this, again, how did they dress in the interview? How did they interact? Did they know anything about the company? Did they do a little bit of research? Ask some questions. Are they asking any questions? Right. So come prepared. And one last thing: take a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper to the interview. Even if you just write your own name on it, come prepared.
Yeah.
To write and take some notes, because again, it shows that you're interested, you're engaged, and you want the job.
Yeah, and those are all really easy, basic
things. Things.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed at how many people, not just young, older, and then we sit back and we say, did you get a thank you? Did you get a thank you?
Right, yeah.
And the answer is most times, all right? I'd say 1 out of 5.
Yeah.
Right? And those are the ones who generally succeed.
And that's really good advice because a lot of times our students, like we can tell them things and their teachers can tell them things like that. But when you hear it from somebody like you who has had to hire a lot of people, like this is what you want, you heard it straight from.
I hear more of the young folks saying, "Oh, I don't want my resume to go over a page because the system will pick it up." And I say, relax, right? If it's a page and a half, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't want to have is a dissertation on
Right.
your life playing volleyball or your all your all your hobbies, and that's how you filled up your that's not or keywords that you're just putting in your resume, and it's going to push it to two pages.
Yeah.
No, but if you've got some interesting things that an applicable experience.
Yeah.
Don't worry about whether it goes over to the next page,
Yeah.
right? And there's things like that I think have become part of what people think are important
Mm-hmm.
that essentially are not.
Yeah.
The things that I shared with you, I think are most important.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Yeah, I think most companies wouldn't, even though I think my life's super interesting, probably most companies don't want Bryce Maldet, the autobiography, as my resume.
Well, some might. Some might. Clearly, the challenge program found it.
Yeah, it might be mostly, I think.
Right? Mostly. There we go. We got a mostly in there.
So on the opposite end, we always like to ask, what's some of the things that you would really suggest people not do for interviews? Like things that have really soured an interview or made them
The number one.
Okay.
Don't be late.
Okay.
Don't be late, right? So think about it the day before or the morning of, or long before. Make sure you know where you're going. Make sure you've, you're not late. Don't be late for an interview. That's just shows that you don't care, you're not punctual, right? So if you're late for an interview, what does that? Doesn't bode well for, or if you're going to be, on time when you come to work. And I think, again, I think. Don't come unprepared, and I it's kind of the same of what do you do?
Yeah.
And some people will come in, and I think even posture and the way they sit. So if they're slumping, they'll just sit there and they're not engaged, and they're just again, posture makes a difference. I always say to the men, it's better to be overdressed than underdressed.
Yeah.
Right. Put on a tie, even if the rest of the office that you're coming into does not have a tie, they're not going to look at you and say, for a tie.
Yeah.
He's
off the list, right? They're going to do the opposite. They're going to say he cared.
Yeah.
He's dressed for the moment. And so again, it's the small things I say that you do, and the small things that you say don't do this are easy things to do that I think make an impact.
Yeah, the first impressions are very.
First impressions is big. But listen, my first boss would look down at my shoes and said, "Did you shine your shoes?" I swear to you, and I remember that to this day. And so I always shine my shoes, right?
Okay.
Well, I take a shoe. So it's on. But I used to shine my shoes all the time, and still do. It's important, and I find myself doing it with others when I see them. So it does make first impression. To your point, I think does matter, right?
Yeah.
Why not try and get as many points as you can in the win column, than in a column of nothing, or the negative side. So.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that is great. I think that is amazing advice for students. So thank you so much for the amazing interview. Our last question that we always wrap up with, because it's nice for the students, is if you had one message or one piece of advice for all the students that are listening right now from the Challenge program, what piece of advice or message would you have for them to either help them through their life, help them get their first job, just encourage them to work harder in high school? Anything.
Well, I think we've talked about a lot of them actually. I think we've touched on a lot of things that I think will help them succeed in school and then when they leave school.
Yeah.
I'm reading a book right now about great habits, and I think that great habits. I couldn't appreciate great habits when I was young. I just couldn't. But great habits are really important for success. It's the small things, and you don't think they're small things.
Sure,
and I just mentioned some of them. Make sure your shoes are shined. I know nobody really cares about that. Maybe when you're young.
Yeah.
I certainly did. I didn't care about it. And I'm not saying that those some of the bigger ones, but if you start making sure that what you do has a purpose, when you get up and make your bed in the morning, you've accomplished something. You've accomplished something. And I think it's the small things that make a big difference. They add up. I read this book on Bill Gates. Bill Gates, one of the things that he attributes to his great success is his ability to continue to peck away at it, right? So he was a programmer, and he would sit in his room or in his dorm room, or even when he was home, and program, and just program hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Well, when you do something for so long, you become an expert at it.
Right.
You become really good. Your mind, you don't even realize you're subconsciously able to do things that some people have to think about.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So those habits that you do early and you carry on will make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. The second thing is what you do today, especially in high school, will most likely, in fact, almost 99% of the time, is not where you'll end up.
Yeah.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
So be open to ideas. Be open to trying things. And that's be inquisitive. Try and get in and see what that experience would be like and see if it's something that you'd enjoy. Even if it's not that thing, maybe it's that kind of industry that you'd like, right? And so, again, what you're doing today, and you think you're going to be in high school. I mean, for me, when I was a junior in high school, somebody said, "What are you going to do when you got?" And I didn't have an answer. I honestly didn't have an answer. I worked at Giant Eagle, and I turned around and I saw the meat department. I said, "Well, I'm probably going to work in the meat department when because it was a very good paying job after high school. When high school was done." So it's because I didn't have a plan. I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
But as I got older and started to realize how important it was to have a path and start to really take that on, it made a big difference in my career.
Yeah. Being the president of a company is just a little bit different than just working in the Giant Eagle meat department.
Well, but the habits, but you'd be amazed though. The habits are
Yes.
very, very similar. I mean, it's you put your head down and you go to work and and those start early because I always say to everybody, you can take everything away your success, but if you've got great work habits, you'll succeed at whatever you do.
Sure. Yeah.
That's so amazing.
Great advice.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dennis. It was a great interview. I
Thank
think
you.
the students
I enjoyed
will take away so much from that. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Back to Mel and Bryce in the studio. Okay. Wow, that was a really awesome interview. I was super excited. We loved having Dennis there. He did a super amazing job. I think that the interview went really, really well. It was super amazing. Me and Mel got to ask him so many questions. He had such remarkable answers, honestly. He gave lots of good advice for all of our students out there. One more time, I just want to remind you all that we're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course, this monthly podcast that we do. Make sure to check out all of our social media for more information on both our spring assemblies, our upcoming fall assemblies that'll be happening, and all the things that we do here at the Challenge program. Until next podcast, I hope you all have an amazing day, and I will see you all next time. Bye!